It says we're live with Kelowna and Prince Rupert. And so for interpreter purposes, just so you know, you are on the screen, whatever you would like. So when we can see ourselves here, you can see. Okay. So I see the numbers going. So hi, I'm going to say hi to Kelowna and Prince Rupert, Maple Ridge, Abbotsford, some of the further out ones, the island, and if I forgot somebody else, I apologize out there. So this is only the second time I've tried going live, and just the whole idea is to try and just really get us all kind of connected. Can you hear the sound field at all? Do we need the sound field? Okay, there we go. Jen, do you mind to put the numbers down a little bit? Well, I wanted the sound field too to help with the live streaming so it would go better, but that was a little bit too loud. That probably sounds better. Is that all right for people's ears? And all those that need the interpreter, you can see easily enough, because now we've kind of squished ourselves in here. So I think we'll kind of just get started, and Alana's going to try and get me the other Alana is going to try and get me a projector so you can kind of see what's going on, but we'll try. Try and explain as best we can, and then so again we just have the one interpreter, and we'll kind of go with it. The first little bit here is we wanted to do a little bit of housekeeping. So those that are on the live stream, I know I sent you an email about 8:30 saying we're having trouble with the internet, so I think if at least half, can you put your hand up if you've got internet connection? Oh, okay, so there's quite a few of us, and I've got two kind of computers here. So I think without a projector, EAs or support staff, if not anything, are very flexible. So I appreciate that. And for those that came in a little bit later, not that I took it lightly, but I don't feel so much pressure, because A, they can fire me if they want to, that's okay, because I wanted to volunteer to do this because I see this as an important day. You're all off this day, so can we, gather together? I wanted to start at 9 to give you travel time. If we have to leave early because of technical difficulties and the such, then that's the way it goes. The basic shape of the day is we'll try and I'll go backwards. The afternoon we'll kind of split into groups. So those that are deafblind interveners will be with the new coordinator from Deafblind Outreach, Alana Pierce. So she's back tucked in here, so you'll hear a little bit from her later. Alana and Rachel. Megan. Oh, hi Megan. We met. Hi. Now I know that face. Okay. So that's later on. So what was I saying? Well, for the afternoon, interveners and Braillists will be together with them. I would be kind of chatting then with classroom EAs and itinerant type and such, and then Piper's sitting in the back there, and I think a lot of you might know Piper and such. So she's got a presentation earlier this morning that I hope we'll be able to project by the time it's your time, Piper. But again, Piper is everything and flexible. So this afternoon we'll split, and probably just in different areas in this room, chat together. And the basis of this afternoon is really kind of, we want to hear from you. As you can see, I have not done a great job getting this going because I've put the hours in, but obviously we're not ready. I need help. So, like yesterday, I forgot to pick up coffee. Like, it was such a simple thing. So I promised coffee and tea. It's kind of, the tea kettle is there, but that's as far as we got. So I want to put it out there, and I'll probably say it again throughout the day. If there's anybody here too that is interested in kind of, you know, do we keep this going? You know, this is our kind of third year doing it together, kind of the fourth. So if there's someone that wants to kind of help and has some ideas, and, you know, my daughter's an event planner, and now I understand why she doesn't call me. When I call her and say, why aren't you calling me back? I understand that now. It's all the little details. And so I do need some help. And pun intended, because I think I need help. So the history of this day is about 4 years ago, Andrea Drummond from Maple Ridge and I were chatting. We said, it's a provincial day, so everyone's off. We're all off at CADA. Why don't our EAs get together? So they got together and they had a nice chat together. So then, I approached Pop DHH and said, I think these EAs deserve a really nice lunch. So I'm gonna apply for some money so I can have a day and then they can have a really nice lunch. Lindley said, oh, well, if you did it in Burnaby, more people could come because of the Sky Trains, and there's more people, and do people from Abbotsford travel in and Maple Ridge and so we did it the first year at Burnaby Secondary, Burnaby Central Secondary, wherever we did it. And then last year, Alana and Nancy Norman put on the workshop last year in the smaller room, and they didn't realize what a good turnout there could be, so they booked that tiny little room. So now, with each year we're getting better, right? So now we got a nice big room. Now we have internet. We'll see about the screen, so I might just kind of hold up my computer like this and you'll get the gist, you know. But that's kind of how it started. There is lunch coming today, Subway. When Tamara's doing her little workshop, then I'm just going to pop down to Subway. And there has been some conversations around, could there be some more cutbacks in some ways? So, you know, we may not have money to do lunch, but I know you're not here for Subway lunch. So I'm not so even worried that way. You're not here for tea or coffee, because no one even said, where's the tea and coffee? So, but I do apologize, no tea and coffee. But so, and I'm not just putting it out to people here to help, you know, people out in the streaming world, you know, they too may have some ideas and way we can kind of connect and go forth. So my little robot here has my iPad live streaming to YouTube. So at the break, then I save it, and then I'll start again after the break. Break's at 10:30. Oh yeah, and all your snacks are downstairs. We'll get them. Or actually, could I ask the Pop DB team? Yep. When you go right down the stairs, kind of like where Katie was signing in, when you walk right into that little room there's some water. No, actually, I did bring the water and the juice, but there's some like food. Okay. Food. Yep. Like little snacky things. And actually, it might probably just take 2 of you. But if you want to keep your meeting going. Yeah. Sorry, thanks guys. Did I interrupt your meeting? Okay. Okay. In case I forget, Alana, if anybody wants a bag, I've got lots of these bags here. So Pop DHH has graciously donated and the such. So, or they had some extras. Let's say it that way. So if you wanted to pick one up, make sure we do at the end of the day. But I do want to at this point kind of thank Outreach, Pop DHH, because they are supporting us here and trying to make sure everything is rolling and going, and so I know Alana's doing her best to get us a projector, but if she can't, she can't. So, yes. Is this what she gave me?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, we can't use it anyway, because there's nothing to connect it to. So we're flexible here, we're gonna figure it out. Okay, so, any kind of questions at this stage? A, we're informal. B, I'm sure we'll be out early, if not early, at this stage, the way my luck is going today. Help yourself, I'm gonna put these over here. So now you know where they are.
Got better sound over there.
Sorry, say that again?
There's better, you sound better over there.
Oh.
It comes on.
Oh, you like it without the sound?
Oh, no, just, you couldn't hear it.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna just keep rolling. Okay, so now we'll start with the shape of the day as you kind of see it on here. Those that came in a little bit later, you might not have one, so let's just put a few over here. I'll keep one, put a few over here. So, what I started with last year, I came in near the end. I had a bit of a health issue last year, so I wasn't really part of the networking day or planning. But I came in near the end, and what that conversation, for those of you that were there last year.
Oh, finally got in.
Oh. Yeah.
Oh, no, she's giving up.
Oh, sorry about that. Now what was I saying? Oh, last year at the end of the day, I remember hearing, like we talked about, is there a way to kind of do shared docs on Google? And so I've done that before with folks, and I get shared docs my way, and for me, I get it all muddled. I try and put them in the right folders, and then I think, oh, I'll do it later, and then I never do, and so I get my folders all over the place. So I don't want to assume you're all like me, but I think there's maybe a few of you out there that are like me. So I was trying Google Classroom. It keeps it a little more organized, and there's a little bit of a form on there. But then I ran into troubles that then everyone has to have a Gmail account, the way Google Classroom works if you're not under a school. So now I've tried Moodle, and this is why it says Moodle versus Classroom. So in a little while, I'm gonna pass out your emails on here, but I'll wait until some of you kind of get into Moodle. So right now I have signed, I think, if it all worked, I hope something worked today. I've signed you all into Moodle, and we will kind of take a look from there. I do have some backup if it didn't work, but the whole idea with the Moodle piece is some of the stuff gets saved there. And there is a form piece where, let's say somebody in Prince Rupert has a question about, oh, I've got this noisy classroom, and I just can't kind of get the classroom teacher to kind of understand that the decibel levels are like really way too high. Does anybody have any suggestions? And your teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing is kind of involved in that whole conversation too, but you guys have all this wealth of knowledge, and perhaps somebody has an idea that really worked for them, so that kind of form. So that's kind of where I'm at. So when this goes around, if you don't want to be part of it, or you don't want to be on the Moodle at all, that's totally fine. Because again, like, this day is for you. If you don't want to be on this, that's fine. I'm just trying it out to see if it is something that works. So if you don't want, then just take the red marker and put your name, or stroke out your email address. And then I'll know to just take you off. And it doesn't hurt my feelings, but we just kind of want to get an idea, you know, is that something that people want or can use? Okay, now I see a projector coming in, but is it back with the dongle too?
It's not. I asked her if you would need it, and she said that you wouldn't, but
Oh,
you probably know that you probably do, but.
because maybe it's HDMI, but this is an older computer.
Go right out, close the window, and then go
I've
back.
got in the
Okay, I'm just gonna hold this up. We'll get by,
Okay.
because you know, by the time we set this up,
So
and,
go, okay,
uh,
now.
anyway. So, if you go to now,
Somebody in the back there.
Do you want me to try to set it up while you're talking?
oh, that would be great. Teamwork, excellent. So if you could do that,
I can't promise.
no, but hey, but it's, because you know what our second obstacle is an outlet.
Here, oh, sorry.
I, okay, oh, right here on the wall. Oh,
Oh, okay.
great, so if you can try, that would be great.
Stay over
And
there.
I'll stay over there and, okay,
You're connecting it to this one or that one?
let's try this one. Please.
Okay.
Okay, so
Remember me as users.
now I'm gonna get you to,
already before I even press the login.
whether you're on an iPad,
Very frustrating.
What I want to close it, I have my laptop restarting.
onlinedhh.com.
And I have to do that for bar.
Okay. So now this, you'll go into the web address. Do you know what, or, you know, on the top of your, can I borrow your iPad for a second? So, you know, the address bar, that's what I'm calling, just right up on there. So you go into onlinedhh.com. Oh, I wonder if it goes backwards too. And then reverse, so we'll see. Okay, so now log into there, because what I want to do is show you Moodle. We're not going to spend a ton of time with it, but I want you to have at least, and if you don't have a computer, that's fine too. Because then you can go back to it later if you think, oh yeah, so on your own time, you might go, okay, this is what I want to, this one's all right.
Where can I find those people?
Oh, so we're,
No, not.
So then it's gonna direct you to change your
Or
password.
dongle that has each
And then
line.
period or
Yeah.
something.
okay, so now I'm gonna just type in there, onlinedhh.com. And so it should kind of come up and look like this. So that's kind of the website. So if it looks like this, then you're at the right place. That looks like that. And again, if you don't have a computer or the internet's not working,
Oh, iPad looks different.
it look a little different on the iPad.
Is your name?
So now,
It is,
you just head into login.
Oh, that's okay.
And so it's your first name dot your last name, but all lowercase, no capitals.
Maybe that was.
So if you had tried already, thank you for trying out, but it can just be that it's the,
space.
yeah, so first name dot last name.
Something's not working right.
This or their first name.
Your first name dot your last name. So I've kind of set everybody up. And then the password should be for everybody, capital C. I think I have it written there on the paper. Like change me, 123 $sign.
No dot at the end?
Change me, 123, and then has to have a character. So, if when you log in, it's gonna ask you to do your own password, if you can't think of anything right now, you can still just do change me $123 or change it, whichever,
As far as I can get it, we're not gonna go further.
and it wouldn't let you go further.
For me personally, but my phone was set to Chrome, so I have to try.
Okay, so I guess I'm not going in.
I'm familiar with you.
Maybe.
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
maybe
so you get the idea.
Yeah.
That's possible.
And you know what, I
Missed
typed in my
setting
wrong
up my
password, no wonder I was not here. I typed in change me.
Oh,
So there's no period on the end,
I know.
sorry, I must have been a
Difference.
autocorrect.
Okay, where was I now? Gotta put it down here, right? Let's try that one.
So, and once you're in, you may get this page. But, oh no, I think that's just because I'm the administrator, that's fine, never mind. This is again now the page you should have, and it has, Powell River E, Abbotsford A, and at the bottom, it has DHH supporting, so I have 4 different, I'm gonna call them classes. So then you click on the DHH support. And my whole goal right now for this next 5 minutes is just that some of you get in, some of you get to see it, and then you kind of go, okay, this is for me or it's not. So that when I pass around, and if you don't stroke off your name, and then you kind of play around with it a little bit, and then you say, no, this isn't for me, I don't need any more emails coming my way at all, then you can just email me.
I wasn't able to get in. It said not valid.
Okay. Same? Okay. So, I did a backup and I have the links that are on it, I have some backup links. So if people didn't get on, then I'm actually not stressed at all because maybe I did one, I tested a few and they seem to work. So, no.
Everything's working.
Yeah, you have to go in. So one of the questions
Not
was,
doing it at all.
is there an app for that? And I don't believe.
downloaded the app.
I did
And it's still
the
not
password that she gave me,
So
and it's still not letting me.
it is too bad that we can't see see it on the screen, because that's really kind of all I wanted to kind of show you, that it kind of, if I just maybe talk it out a little bit, I guess. So it says DHH Network Forum. And that's where you would click and put in your question. And then the way Moodle would work is that it kind of sends an email to everyone to kind of say, oh, there's a question, and either you respond to it or you delete it. So this is all kind of like an experiment. Is this gonna work? Maybe not. But who knows, maybe it might. So the next link down there, and I'll send you all this, I started it, but I didn't finish it. And I won't open it up, because you know what a spreadsheet looks like. So when you get to this, it has all the school districts, and then it has all of the days that they have where your district has Pro Ds. It's not finished, I only kind of did a chunk. And then to be honest, I forgot about it. I kind of had it in my mind, okay, I did that job, but I didn't finish it. So I'll get to that later. But the whole idea behind that link there, the Pro D days around BC, is that, you know, as, like, for example, the interveners kind of get together this afternoon, and somebody from Surrey meets somebody from Abbotsford. Even, well, Lori's actually just gonna be online. But maybe they kind of say, hey, you know, I'd really like to go out and shadow you. I have a Pro D day, next Friday, and I see you don't, so why don't I come your way? In Williams Lake, there's a young woman who's thinking of getting into interpreting. So, you know, is that kind of a connection piece? You know, that there's an interpreter that says, you know, I'd be fine with someone coming in and kind of just shadowing me for kind of a half a day to get a sense, what is the role of you know, the educational interpreter in the classroom? You know, if your district, like I know in Cranbrook, they're thinking of maybe getting an itinerant EA. And I know in Richmond and in Abbotsford, we have an itinerant EA. So that's my whole idea behind the saying Pro D days.
What is an itinerant?
Itinerant EA is an EA that goes kind of to different schools. They have certain school students that they kind of support, be it in the classroom or the teacher of the deaf gives them some work to work on, because sometimes it's a caseloads in some school districts. You've got 25 kids, you cannot service them properly. So that's how we ended up with one in Abbotsford, because that way, if I saw that student twice a week and the itinerary A saw them twice a week, they got 4 days of service. That kind of idea. So that kind of shadowing. I've gone to sleep again here, literally. In a few minutes, I do want to start the BC DHH scavenger hunt, but we don't have to do it through Moodle, because I do have that other little link, because I really felt this was going to work, and we'd have internet, and I logged everybody in and I tried to make sure everything worked, but it didn't. But so we have that short link. So you'll see at the end if you get into it. So we'll try that out later. So so I have the link to the scavenger hunt. We're not going to do the whole thing today. I have no idea even what time it is now to keep on time. Oh, it's already 9:30. Woo! Okay, so I might save the scavenger hunt for later if we have time. And then we might even get this up and running. Tamara's presentation, she had a few handouts, so I uploaded it to the Moodle. Plus I can send you those. Piper and I haven't been chatting totally today, and if she had a handout, we can upload it. And so that's the whole idea behind the Moodle. Is it a place like a forum where we're there for sharing? Is it and a place to just kind of save some resources? So we're going to try that out, see if it works. And who knows, we may go back to Google Classroom because it's easier, but then there's no forum, so we'll see. So this is an experiment. I do have a little video to show you later, and it's John Warren from the top ASL specialist. He made himself a little video to kind of say hello. So that's up there too. So under troubleshooting video and links, there's nothing there yet. So you can click there, but there won't be anything. I just put that there as kind of like a sample. Okay, so I'll look into why. Did anybody get into the Moodle other than me?
Yes.
So a few did? Oh, okay. So
John Warren, but it's not placed. It stops.
okay, so I have it saved differently. So maybe it wouldn't take that. So I am going to pass this around. Is this another interpreter? Another interpreter? How are you doing? You're okay? Okay, so it's not alphabetical order. Sorry. So you're on there somewhere. As I keep talking, if you want to stroke your name off or just leave it, if you know you want to kind of try this out, just pass it to the next person. If you know that this isn't for you and you know you'll probably never go back to it, like I say, my feelings aren't hurt. The whole idea, it is Google versus Moodle, which is the way we want to go. Okay, so I'll just start this out this way, and then you can decide, just the stroke through. Okay, so welcome. We've got a second interpreter here, and at around 9:30. I'm going like this because where's my little shape of the day? I think what I will do is have you go to the, if you got into Moodle, go to the scavenger hunt, click it open. If you didn't get to Moodle, you have it, you can see it right on here. It is tiny URL, it's number E. E on this paper. And if you go into your address bar, it's tinyurl.com / DHH website, I lost it, website hunt. Yeah, only cross your name off if you don't want to. So the question back there was that, again, just, if you, just cross your name off if you just really want me to take you off the Moodle. And if you want to give it a try, great. Yeah, can I hold that, Mary? So, this is what the scavenger hunt looks like. So when you pull it up, it'll look like that. So you can either just, if you Moodle did work, click on scavenger hunt, or type in, go to letter E there, that says tinyurl.com / DHH website hunt. So, before you started,
I have one question. It asks you for your email address. Is that the one that we've just set?
Yeah.
up? Or is that our,
The one you're
email
passing
address?
around.
oh, you can put any email address in there.
Okay.
So, this is not gonna be even looked at, to be honest. I have the spreadsheet, so it just automatically asks for an email. When I first made this, I wanted an email address. And so instead of redoing it, so you could put any fictitious email. I'm not even gonna look at it later. For doing this website or doing the DHH right now, we're not gonna go through the whole thing. Just, there isn't really the time, so really, if you went through a few of them, there are, I think, 17 websites. If you even just wanna scroll down to the end, I've got Pippa's at the end, or Piper, I keep saying Pippa, didn't I? Did I say Pippa before? Did I? Okay, so, so Piper's is at the end, as is the outreach for deafblind. So there are 18 different supports for our deaf and hard of hearing kids. And my objective, I made this kind of for parents, to kind of let them know what are the supports that are out there for your kids. So for here, hi Julie. Julie's a student here at the school, and she can do everything and anything, right?
Maybe, we'll see.
So we'll see. We're not gonna go through the whole thing. And if this was something that you kind of went, oh, I think I'd like to, then you have the link. But we'll spend about 10 minutes right now, just kind of playing with it. And if you're beside somebody that has one, just look on, cheat, whatever you want to do, put in any old answer. Because it's really, my objective right now is for you to kind of get the sense of what the scavenger hunt is about. Really just getting to know what kind of supports are out there. So we'll just take about 10 minutes tops, okay? Does that kind of make sense? So if you're not gonna do the scavenger hunt, check your Instagram or whatever else you need to do. So we've got about 10 minutes, okay? You're not gonna get very far, but that's.
Oh,
I
which I know it's terrible,
So that's where I need to. Or can I just bring this closer? Oh, no, I can't, because I gotta, you know what, I think we're just gonna have to. I just assume it's like a classroom, you just kind of hook your computer into right? Yeah, but we don't need it this afternoon. That's the thing. Till 12:15? Yeah. Yeah. Well, and actually, if you, do you know where you can get one?
Yeah, I would grab one.
Okay.
The thing is though, I think you need a well, I think, yeah, no, I think it's because which computer are you gonna be on?
Yeah.
Which one?
This one, which is a one, this is hers from the other bank.
Well, I think it's because she thought you were gonna have a different computer, or different.
So each month, the payday services programs. She's like, oh. Yeah, we'll just. So what is the BC early hearing program?
Because Andy should be able to,
So imagine the primary program is 3 years before and start hearing.
it's busy, you know, it's crazy every year, just because.
So much does come in.
Did you get the email? Yeah. Yeah, there is a movie day coming up. And then
Well, hold on. They keep, I mean, yeah.
it's just nice to.
Nice to be able to see everybody.
Yes.
Well, that's where I is going. There's 2 programs, one of them comes on the side here, the other. AC.
And so I'm gonna go back. Okay.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what we just want to know. The program excited. It's pretty. It's got a strong.
Yeah, they normally come out for someone who's. I like to teaching.
Have you been? But it's more the.
Oh,
it's more
okay.
the, what is? I guess we have to go here.
Yeah.
To find out which one is. We know the answer to that.
No, I just guessed.
I'm gonna guess that the fact that it's talking about the island death, that it's going to be about.
You No, that's a good age to get.
Okay. I'm just, because the time is running and I know at 10:30, I really want to make sure you have your break so that, if some folks wanted to go downstairs and connect with a teacher they might have known from another school district, or, you know, the such, so CADA is having their break. In my mind, I thought the library was right above Michael J. Fox Auditorium, and I think I even said to people, it's right above, it's gonna be great, you know, and you just pop right down. So it is a bit of a hike, I apologize, but we do wanna stop at 10:30 so you can go down and, you know, grab some water and treat or juice. Bathrooms are, I believe,
It's right across the.
it's right across, they did get that one open. I sent somebody there, so hopefully it was open, or just down the way. So we're gonna stop right now because I think you get the gist. And it's unfortunate that you probably didn't get down to number 18, because then you get my joke, but, well, I'll say it later anyway. But first, I think I'm gonna bring up Alana and Megan, just for a short little, you know, intro, because again, that's what I think is kind of important, knowing some of your supports that are out there. So Alana Pierce is the new coordinator. She's been a consultant for deafblind outreach for 10 years, and so now she is the
9 years,
newly appointed coordinator, and I'll let her introduce Megan. And so they just have a few little updates kind of just to share. And then this afternoon, the interveners, you'll be with Megan and Rachel and Alana, et cetera, all together in a big happy family. Okay, so here's Alana.
This way?
Yeah, just so that you're in for live.
Okay. So, hi, my name is Alana Pierce. I'm the coordinator and also a teacher consultant with the, should I start over? Is that okay? Start over? Okay. Hi, my name is Alana Pierce. I am the coordinator and also a teacher consultant with the BC Provincial Outreach Program for students with deafblindness. And this is Megan Bresser. She is our newest consultant with the BC Deafblind Outreach Program. So we're thrilled to have Megan on board this year. She's dived right into it, had both feet first, and we're thrilled she's here, and we think that she's happy to be with us.
I'm happy, yes.
Good. Okay, so just if you don't know anything about the Deafblind Outreach Program, we provide support to students with deafblindness across British Columbia who are currently registered with educational authorities. So we can work in school districts, we work with private schools, and we work with distributed learning programs. So we work in a lot of different educational environments. We work in areas where the district doesn't already have in-house support for students with deafblindness. So that, in other words, the district doesn't have anybody on staff who is specialized in the area of deafblindness. So that's where they will make a request to us and say, hey, we've got this kid, we would like some help. We work this year, we're working with 35 different educational authorities. So that includes districts, private schools, and distributed learning programs. Deafblindness is a very rare disability. We see 75 students across the province. And to put that into perspective, there's about 640,000 students in the province. We see 75, so that means we see 0.01% of students in the province. So deafblindness is a very rare disability. Some of the things that we do, we work one-to-one in schools directly with EAs supporting with students with deafblindness to help train and support providing information in the area of best practices in the field. We do presentations and we do workshops on deafblindness. That's who we are.
And now you all have faces to names.
Yes.
That's what well, that was me, like, I just saw you guys chatting over there, and oh, okay, now I know who Megan is, so.
Yes.
Excellent.
Perfect. Thank
I'll
you.
scoop this back.
Okay.
Give it a little whip here, and then I'll get Piper to come up this way. Now, if you do the scavenger hunt, and if you get to Piper's, I kept, you know, anytime I tried to look up the website, I was, you know, is it post-secondary, yeah, I was trying to figure out the acronym. So when you get to that question, yeah, you'll know what PCAS stands for. So with no further ado, and actually, no, I always have something, this is too much to say, sorry. One of the reasons, Tamara Lister is the SLP for POP DHH. So it was quite funny. She kind of said, oh, Piper should be a great speaker for your conference. She had a total different idea. Piper and I had no idea what Tamara was thinking. So it took us about 3 months before we connected. And we're both saying, well, Tamara's, if you know Tamara, like she's phenomenal within the outreach system. And so we said, if Tamara asks, we jump, you know. And so as Piper and I started chatting what she would do for this, it kind of blossomed into post-secondary, what options are out there for our post-secondary students as they transition into post-secondary. Did I say that right? Yeah. So I know a lot of you can be elementary, like you work with the elementary students, but I think, to me, that power is knowledge, and you might know somebody that's in that high school. So, you know, even though you might be elementary trained, having that, this knowledge about the post-secondary. So Piper is going to talk a little bit about that, and then now you know where her website is, and we'll go from there. So Piper is 5'2", and then we want to let them break for break at 10:30, and then if Piper has more to say, she's more than welcome to take a little bit of time after that, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I'll mic you up.
Could you bring it a little closer up? It works better when it's closer up. Sure.
Just do that. Is that too? Want to test it?
No, it's fine. How's that for everyone? Okay. I used to have this diary, instead of like the traditional, diary books with your calendar. I had this really beautiful sort of leather-ish red thing. It had this picture in the middle. And the 1950s photos where somebody in the kitchen's like this, but really she's saying something really cranky. My book had a photo like that, and it said underneath, "It's so involved being me." And as I hear this introduction, I think, yeah, it is so involved being me. Some of you I see in the room, I've known from my previous incarnation, my work here at the School for the Deaf. So I am Dolores, formerly known as Dolores, but now I go by Piper, which is my surname. So it's okay if you get my name wrong. I know I saw a couple of people already this morning, like, Dolores! And then they feel so terrible that I've changed my name to Piper, but call me whatever you want. Somebody called me Pepper the other day, and then they felt really badly, but Pepper is actually a very cool name. She's like the lead character from that movie, Iron Man. What is it called? The Iron Man? Pepper Potts? I thought, I'll be Pepper Potts. She's awesome. That's fine. So Dolores, Piper, Pepper, I'll take it all. So it is a pleasure to be here, and it's been great to sort of evolve in thinking about what we can talk about. And I will say, even as you said, Joe, like for some of you who are working in the elementary school, I'll talk a little bit more about my transition program, but I think this is actually very timely, and I don't think it's a stretch to be speaking with you about the work that we do. So, to back it up a little bit, the other piece that's really involved is my program, and it is PCAS, Post-Secondary Communication Access Services. And we're actually going to start looking at some rebranding this year. I've just been in this position for the last year. Up until then, I've been an interpreter for the last 32 years and worked mostly in community, and I also did some work here at the BC School for the Deaf back when Joe McLaughlin was the vice principal. I was his interpreter. So that's a little bit of history up to my work then at PCAS, and we are a provincial program funded by the Ministry of Advanced Education. And so our mandate primarily is to support the post-secondary system with access and inclusion for students who are deaf, blind, and hard of hearing. And so part of our programming has evolved into also including working with folks like you and teachers of the deaf and hard of hearing to support students into the transition to post-secondary. When we worked with coordinators at different institutions around the province, some of the challenges or frustrations they experienced were students not coming well enough prepared. Let me just ask you, for show of hands, how many of you felt really prepared when you started your post-secondary education? Nobody. Yeah, okay, one person. How many of you wish you'd had some support and some kind of roadmap or guidelines to prepare you from high school into post-secondary education? Exactly. And so that's what we discovered in our program. So even though our principal stakeholders and support is to the post-secondary system, it became really apparent that there's two parts to the equation, and we need to support students and help them better prepare to move into their post-secondary education. And so a few years ago, we had a workshop that was created, mostly inspired by a woman by the name of Elissa, E-L-I-S-S-A, Robb, and she's, if you don't know her, she is an audiologist at the Western Institute for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing at the the Coquitlam or Tri-Cities branch. And so Elissa is hard of hearing herself, and she's an audiologist. And so she had recognized her own frustration having gone through her post-secondary education. She tells some great stories about where she started in I can't remember her field of study, but it completely changed when she realized that she was struggling and it just wasn't her forte, and she became an audiologist. But some of her inspiration was to also help students who are also hard of hearing not to face the same challenges. I think she talks about her experience and not wanting to get support services until her third year or something like that in university. And so she understood and appreciated the resistance and reluctance for some hard of hearing or deaf students to ask for support. She felt very much like she could just do it on her own, which is what we've actually seen when we work with the high school students in our workshops. And so I'll talk a little bit about the exact modules that we talk about in the workshop that help students sort of overcome that. Having said that, though, I do really think that starting that sort of education and self-advocacy should be starting way younger. So when we would do the workshops, it would be usually January, February, unless there's a snowstorm, which happened a couple of years ago, and we weren't able to do the workshop until later in the spring. We would meet with the students for about 3 hours, and there was, it's a partnership that we've created through Elissa Robin, the Western Institute for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing Audiology Department. We also partnered with CHA BC, the Youth Peer Support Program, and the Provincial Deaf and Hard of Hearing Services, and they have a transition program as well. So between the three organizations and PCAS, we provided this workshop, and so different people would come up to the front and speak to different aspects of preparation for post-secondary education. What we did notice, even though we tried to make it really engaging, we added some games and we added some different structures to help sort of engage the students, after about 2 hours, you can just see that all just glazing over. And I always felt like it was not the right format for that age of student, first of all. And it's too much information in too short of time and almost too late. Like to be working with the students in February or March and helping them prepare for when they graduate in June and all the stuff they have to get ready for September enrollment. I just always felt like some of the check pieces they would go through was okay, but to really understand as a deaf and hard of hearing student how to advocate for yourself and get the accommodations you need, usually we recommend 4 to 6 months before you get to the university that you have to start the work. And so students often are quite astounded by that amount of lead time that's required. But it is, and unfortunately, the students have to jump through a lot of hoops, and it's not simple. Like even just the forms for funding, they're several pages long, and it's very complex and very involved. So it became really apparent that although the workshops were really well attended, and a lot of the teachers, the itinerant teachers who work with the students would return year after year, it still felt like we weren't really able to accomplish as much as we would like to. And so this year we've decided to put the program online. It's not ready yet. We're still amassing all of the, oh, I see the, hello everyone. I just realized I didn't include you as well. I'm just looking at the camera. So we didn't include all of that information as much as we could in person. So now moving everything to online, I think will be a much more robust system. It won't be synchronistic in nature, it'll be asynchronous. So, you know, sometimes we wouldn't have students coming to our workshops because they didn't even want to get pulled out of the class. You know, in grade 12, they're really focused and every moment is precious for them. So sometimes their parent would attend in their stead, or they would just get the information from peers, or their itinerant teacher would be there. But we needed the students, you know, in the seats and connecting to one another and really helping them to understand all the pieces that need to go into moving into post-secondary education. So our hope is that by moving everything to an online format, the students will be able to dive into the information much more thoroughly and even more in depth than we've been able to accomplish. We're hoping to build in some activities around self-reflection and you know, understanding what their own needs are. When we talk to some of the students, and we'd ask, like, you know, do you have a T-coil, or what are the systems, or what do you need? And often they would say, I don't know, I just go to school and everything's there. Or conversely, some of the students would say, I used to use an FM, but I don't anymore, and because I just don't like it. So their experience in evolving through the secondary, or from elementary to secondary, changes. And so we try to remind them that it might be a good idea to return back to building in some of those supports, because sitting in a classroom of maybe 300 other students and not having access to everything in the same way you did in a contained small 10-person classroom is going to be a very different experience. So trying to reintroduce them back into the idea of asking for all kinds of supports that would be most beneficial for them, and helping them to understand and appreciate the value of some of those supports, and not to be afraid of asking for support. I recall working with and talking with a group of hard of hearing young professionals, and a couple of the people talked to me afterwards, and they said, oh man, if I had known that it wasn't to be such an embarrassing thing to ask for support, I would have gotten support way before I did. So, you know, still some of these young adults were talking about how they tried to persevere and go through their post-secondary education after a couple of years, and realized that you know, it's better to ask for support and get the real support they need, because they're paying for this education, and it's what they want to learn and do after graduation. So it was much more vital to them, in hindsight, to put their pride or embarrassment aside and get the supports they need. And then once they did, they realized, oh, my life is so easy. This is what I want. This is the kind of interaction I want with my instructor or my peers. So we're very excited to be moving this whole program to an online platform. Like I said, we're still in the process of amassing the information and transferring the content to a system that's more accessible and more wholesome. We're hoping that perhaps by February at the latest, we'll have a template and a pilot to work with. And so we'll select a few professionals, teachers of the deaf and hard of hearing, invite you as well if you have an interest in looking at some of that material and giving us some feedback in terms of how effective the information is, and what you think is missing, or what we could add to that. I will also have the workbooks I'd love to share with you. I only have like 8 books, and so I'm hoping maybe we could get into groups of 5 or 6 people at a table. And I'd love to work through some of the content that we talk about, and just get your insight. Like I said, I really think that you are also key players in helping the students understand, and you might have some insights that we don't have in the post-secondary environment about, these are some things that you notice in the classroom, or in how the students interact with one another. Once you look at the sort of modules that we're tackling, if there's anything that you think could be addressed in a more thorough way, or things that you've experienced in working with the students, we'd love to have your feedback and input. So the previous workshops we did, like I said, we had like the partners coming up to the front and speaking to the students. And last year we did something a little bit different, and we realized what's really important is to have the activities more student-centered. So the students, because we're telling them, you know, once you leave high school, you know, your FM system's not going to be there waiting for you. Nobody's going to like remind you to do this. It's not going to be all laid out for you. You're going to be on your own. And we say on your own, but they're not alone, but they are on their own. We want them to, you know, be ready to take charge and be in the driver's seat of their education and their accommodations. So we try to help them prepare for what that kind of conversation looks like. We've done some case studies with them as well. But even in that 3 hours that we've worked with them, they were still reluctant to really advocate for, and, you know, we ask them, like, what would you say to a professor or your college instructor if you're not understanding them? You know, let's practice some ways that you would accommodate or advocate for yourself. And that was new for them, and it was awkward, and of course, also doing that sort of experience in front of their peers in an environment like this was not the friendliest way. Some students did rise to the occasion, but we realized that's not the best approach pedagogically for students to really get them engaged. And if we wanted them to be in the driver's seat and taking charge, then we thought that we should actually model that through the education piece that we were doing. So last year, we established stations. So for all of the content pieces that we spoke about, we created different stations for the students, and we created this workbook that I will show you. And so in the middle, there's a passport, and you'll have a chance to look at this. And it just outlines some of the information that the students sort of need to be thinking about in terms of community resources and technology. And so there's some prompting questions here for them, just to get their minds thinking about all the details they need to be considering. And so when they go through all the different stations, they would go through this workbook. And this was actually inspired by a conversation I had with the teachers of the deaf and hard of hearing mentorship program. And they said, oh my gosh, we would love to work more with you. We would love to support the students in a greater capacity. If you could give us a workbook, we would love that. So we did start with this sort of skeleton about a workbook that does take the students through the different elements. And I'll just briefly touch on that. So part of it is just thinking about their rights and responsibilities and comparing what their experience in high school was compared to moving into post-secondary and being adult learners and being in charge of their education and their accommodations. And then we also talk about community resources and what's available, and you know, encouraging them to take the lead and reaching out to different agencies to get all of the supports that they require. And then there's also ATBC, and they are a provincial program like PCAS that provides equipment to students. So they go through the financial aid piece. They can get finances and support for getting their own FM system or computer or a Roger pen, whatever technology is useful for them in post-secondary education. And then we also talk about just the different accommodations, and we have a CART provider and a Typewell transcriber as well, who speak and give. We've got a video that we show, and I'll send that link with the resources that shows some of the differences between the different services. Because although I know that there are some school districts that are starting to use Typewell, and I think you're going to be speaking and listening to somebody who does that transcribing work, but trying to really make sure that the students get a really full appreciation of the access that those two different kinds of supports and technologies could allow them. And then we also have a piece where we talk about the financial aid, and that's usually the piece that the parents want the most, is how do I get the supports and the funds for the equipment and interpreting services, et cetera, for the students. And that's quite, like I said, it's not a straightforward process. It's all, you know, student ABC, and there's a lot of steps to go through. So we want to be able to provide that information in a more fulsome roadmap kind of way, so that the students know exactly who to go to, when, and where. And at the end of the booklet, we've got a checklist, and it just takes them through the different months of all of the tasks that they should be thinking about in terms of preparing for moving into post-secondary education. And like I said, we tell them that they should be contacting the disability services or accessibility services. Now is the trend. Most universities and colleges are changing their departments. So contacting those departments to talk about accommodations at least 4, if not 6 months in advance. So we have a checklist here, and I would love, again, any thoughts that you have around how practical, how useful, or anything that you think, mind you, if you're in elementary, you're not going to be thinking about how soon they should be contacting the accessibility services provider. But anything that sort of comes to mind in terms of how you see students evolving through the school system would be really wonderful. Perhaps I could just hand those out now, and we won't move into the groups quite yet, but just to get a sense of how we might be able to do this. I'm not sure if there's going to be enough, I think. Yeah. Maybe a group here.
See if they're awake on there.
You're welcome. Maybe something back.
then I'm just gonna say to the live folks, so they get a break, is that you can just email me if you don't want off the Moodle. So did anybody else need to look at this? Oh. Only this, all right. Just look for your name, and if you do not want to be on the Moodle, it's on there. And then if you don't want, then just, yeah, that's all. Oh, yeah. Doesn't matter to me, it's here.
And my students were checking it out.
Okay, so we have to share what's going behind us.
And I will also add, to the information in the workbooks, we're going to be adding 2 other components. One is specific to the ATVC supports that students can access and really map out what that service looks like. And also, we've had the Deaf Wellbeing Program participate in our workshop last year. Because one of the things that we know in the there's a survey of post-secondary students and addressing sort of stress and mental health challenges. And that population of students in their first 2 or 3 years of college or university education is where they really struggle with just managing the stress levels and the change from secondary to post-secondary environments. So we decided that it's pretty important to address that piece right up front. And so last year we were able to have the Deaf Wellbeing Program, some mental health practitioners and support people speak to the students and also the parents, and just helping to flesh out what supports and considerations these students need to be thinking about and preparing for that. I should say my office is housed at BCIT, and at BCIT they've got a really great student success department, and so they talk about the 8 dimensions of well-being, and it goes through the whole gamut of like sleep and rest and nutrition and exercise and social activity. So, you know, figuring out how to balance all those pieces. So I'm really excited to build that piece into our workshop as well. So while it's not in the workbooks, if you have some thoughts as you go through the different sections and think, now this is something that they should be thinking about in terms of wellness or well-being, please just make a note, and I'll collect these and would love to just have that support and input from you.
And then also, if somebody had an idea later, like you leave
Absolutely.
and you think about it, then is your email, like I'll make sure that either that's on the Moodle or attach it.
Right.
To that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Email.
And I'll leave my business cards as well, but I'm also going to be here at the conference next door. I'm just gonna run down at the lunch hour and work with meet with some of the teachers as well. And, but feel free to call me anytime today or hereafter if you have some inspiration and ideas about things that you notice. But even like a couple of months down the road, as this sort of sits in your mind and you think, oh, this would be something that would be really helpful for us to sort of tackle, to address and provide support to students, we welcome that, and I would really appreciate that. So in the next 15 minutes, if you could work in your groups and just go through the different sections, if you will, and just make any notations of how straightforward these questions are, or if there's anything that you think, like for example, the first page about thinking about the differences between high school and college. If there's anything that you think, even just based in the younger age of students, like moving into secondary, or what kind of internalized strengths and self-advocacy do you think would be helpful in terms of navigating those conversations? And for those of you, if you're interpreters, are there interpreters in the room? I should have checked. Oh gosh, yes. So even just thinking about how students create relationships with you. You know, sometimes like when they move into post-secondary education, the interpreters aren't necessarily already just in the school, but they have to advocate for services. And what if they didn't understand the interpreter, and how could they have those conversations? So if you could think about how you might want to have us sort of build capacity and educate them as really good self-advocates to work with their interpreters the most effectively, please make any notations around that as well. Is it clear for everyone? Any questions? Anyone not clear about what I'm asking? All right, so we'll go for 15 minutes and then I'll come back. All right, thank you.
Yes. Oh, sure. Yes.
And so for you live streamers, we don't have it what do you call it, uploaded yet. So we'll get that, we'll upload, and then, so if you want to take a break now, we'll come back at, I'm not looking at the clock, you know, for 10:45-ish. Found some keys, are they yours? So we'll, hoping this works. Because with the no issue at the beginning, it just, no one came in to help me with the go-to meeting, and it just slipped my mind. So I am hoping that this is rolling. It looks like we've been going for 70 minutes. So I'm gonna stop it now and then let it upload and do its thing. And we'll be back at 10:45. Okay? See you. Start the fire? Where's the stop?